Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Way is in Training. This is a podcast exploring how warriors should train and fight, as well as how they should live. We will talk about technique, but we'll also dive deep into fitness, mindset, and strategy. We will explore leadership and philosophy as well. So whether you are a young soldier, a veteran police officer, a responsible armed citizen, or simply someone looking for an authentic life, let's examine how the lessons of combat and preparation for it can help us fulfill our potential. Let's explore the way together and learn how the discipline of training can show us our true selves amidst the chaos of life. Hey everybody, welcome back. In this episode, I've got Kerry, Kato, Murakami back one more time of Rectitude Training. And before we get into talking about this new class you've got on the books, let's do a quick intro of you again in case people missed the first one.
Yeah, hi. Kerry Murakami. Everybody calls me Kato. Retired law enforcement here out of the Chicagoland area. I completed a 28-year career. In 2021, I retired. North suburbs of Chicago. Was a DT firearms scenario-based training instructor. Last, say, 10 years of my career, I really started looking outside of the current curriculums that were being taught, mainly because I thought they were essentially garbage, and needed to change the focus into like defensive tactics, into more combatives, and kind of combine some of my interests of like jiu-jitsu and combat sports into essentially being an armed professional, and really just kind of expounding off of that till present day when I retired. I started the company in 2020, but that was knowing that I'm going to retire in 2021, and really just kind of pushing that out right now into law enforcement, which is right now about 95% of my business, and looking forward to an open enrollment class in 2026. So I kind of a little more split, maybe 25-30% of my business will be open enrollment for next year, and then the bulk of it will be law enforcement.
So before we talk about the class, I wanted to touch on something you said, because this came up in my last one. I had John Valentine on the show, and we were talking about this. And I was telling him how one of my pet peeves has always been the phrase defensive tactics. I just cannot stand it. Yeah. I understand why the brass likes it, because they want everything to appear all nice and warm and fuzzy and peaceful, but it's a fight for your life. It's not defensive tactics, it's combatives.
Yes. And I think I put out a meme there, how like there's the DT superhighway, and how, like, at least in the state of Illinois, PPCT, pressure point control tactics, is kind of a must certification you have to become a defensive tactics instructor. And I basically tell everybody, like, hey, that's great, you got your certification. That's the on-ramp to the DT superhighway. And sooner or later, you're going to get off the on-ramp and you're going to start merging a little further to the left and further to the left and further to the left, and then you'll end up in the far left lane. And that's kind of like all the cool shit that I get to teach. And every DT instructor wants to teach the cool shit, but they haven't mastered some of the fundamental things. They're still thinking that pressure points still work. There's no need for combat sports. They're still stuck in theory-based, systems. And so, it just over time, like, these kids will gradually, merge to the further and further to the left. It's just a matter of them staying focused and doing a little self-education. And I think the biggest issue in law enforcement isn't necessarily crappy systems. It's the longevity of that person in that position. And I guess what I mean by that is, so let's say you get a guy with 5 years on the job, he all of a sudden has some interest, or he's voluntold to go to a DT instructor class, and now he's got this piece of paper, thinks he's the shit, and now he goes out and starts teaching and realizes like, maybe this stuff doesn't work, or maybe it only works in certain circumstances, or this is a very niche thing. And then he comes to a class like mine, and he's like, hey, I want to teach your stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that's not happening. Like, you gotta back up, and you gotta start train some wrestling, train some Muay Thai, train on your own time and dime, start some self-study. And they eventually will get there, but in their career path, right, they have specialties. Maybe they want to go into a smaller unit. Maybe they want to get out of patrol, maybe become a detective, right? And usually those specialties pull you out of the defensive tactics realm. So what I see as the problem is, well, that's part of the problem. And then also the people who manage these programs, one, they don't necessarily have any interest in the program. They're essentially voluntold to manage it. So that's a problem. They don't have a background in it. So they might be a great manager, but they don't, right?
Wait, you mean a 40-hour instructor's class doesn't make you a subject matter expert?
Yeah, right. Well, here, some of these guys who are managing these classes, they're not even going to a 40-hour certification class. They're just in charge of running the program. And they might be great managers, but if they don't really know what they're managing, I got a little problem with that. Sometimes you just got to let the experts, and it might be just that 5-year guy going, this is the direction we need to go in. We need to add in combat sports. We need to add wrestling, yada, yada, yada. So
we had a boss. He was a couple bosses above the SWAT team, right? And he came and he helped us out with our little, we had a little simunitions shoot house, right? Not live fire, just sims.
Yeah.
And he was able to push through funding to get video recording in all the rooms, which was great.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a training coordinator at the time. And then he talks to me and he goes, well, now, Matt, you don't have to stand on the catwalk anymore. I was like, what are you talking about? You've always got to have somebody in the catwalk. We have the video now. I'm like, that's not how this works. He's like, no, sure, you have the video. I'm like, no world-class hostage rescue team doesn't have people on the catwalk. Yeah. And they have video in the rooms too. Well, maybe we know better than they do. Like, no. Nope. Sorry, boss. I guarantee you we do not know better than they do.
Yeah. There's that's, hey, I appreciate your suggestion, but we're going to continue to do it this way.
Yeah.
It's unfortunately, both on the individual level and then on the management level, that's why a lot of these programs have a tendency to fail. I believe, you have to have somebody who is vested in the program to manage it. And even if they're not vested in the program, they have to at least be able to let some of the reins go and not micromanage it, which is very typical in law enforcement. And then on the individual side, I'm not saying don't seek that your pursue your career path, but don't let that hinder the training aspect, because training will always be there. Your career path might go up and down, up and down, up and down, and who knows? You might wind up all the way back into patrol, working some graveyard shift. So I think the training cadre is ultra important. I also think their capabilities are also important, because the 40-hour cert, it limits them to whatever program that they're certified in. But if your program is running, let's say, like my old agency, we run a wrestling block, like we run a striking block. If you don't know how to wrestle, if you can't do a demo, how are you really going to, if you can't physically do it, how are you going to demo it? How are you going to expect your students to do it too? So,
it amazes me that this still happens, but even in the last year or so, I've had people, law enforcement people, come through my classes who are instructors in their agencies who tell me they were taught to never demo
Yeah.
because you might make a mistake.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, you don't have to be a world champion shooter to teach shooting, but you have to be able to shoot. You have to understand how it works. You know,
Yes.
you don't have to have an MMA belt to teach combatives, but you better understand how a hip throw works, or, you know, an outer reap or an arm
Yeah.
bar,
Yeah. 100%.
a jab across, you know. And I just, the ego based opinion of that just blows my mind. Don't demo because you might make a mistake.
Yes.
How about you just make a mistake and you be honest with the students and go, yeah, let me clean that up. I mean,
yeah, right. I think it was last week, I was doing a demo of a drill, and the guy I picked to do the demo, he's a big, strong dude, right? And we're doing this drill, and I'm just showing him how to like break the grips, yada yada. And I'm literally, we're just demoing it, and then he's got to win the drill, right? So then he takes the gun from me. I'm like, okay. And then we do it again, and I'm like, hey, this is just the drill. I'm just showing you. Yet takes the gun from me. I'm like, okay. Third time, he's like, you want to go again? I'm like, yeah. And I keep the gun, break both his grips, and I'm like, yeah, I just changed the drill. And he was like, because you can't stick with the drill, you're gonna go off script and do your own thing. I go, the reason we do drills is just to get better at whatever the drill is. You have to stick with the drill. You can't go outside the drill. And I go, if we're going to do that, then we'll just do free sparring, and then we'll play that route, you know? So yeah, I mean, like, I don't necessarily care that I look bad. I go, I was doing a drill and he wasn't. And I go, there's a huge difference there. So
yeah. Well, and I think people lose sight of, like, take shooting, right? And I was talking about this on a recent podcast. People get wrapped up in the drill, like the drill is somehow the point of it.
Right.
Like the bill drill is the point of the bill drill. The bill drill is not the point of the bill drill. It's what training effect can I create in my skill by using that drill.
By using that drill. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, it's kind of it's the same root cause as the not wanting to demo. It's the ego issue, right?
Yeah. 100%.
And it's just manifesting in a different way.
Yeah. I didn't talk about it, but like, I have a spinal cord injury from a year and a half ago, and I can't feel my legs, and I still demo everything. I also tore a rotator cuff. I still demo, even though it hurts. I'm like, you know, you'll see me wince, but I just go through it, and it is what it is. To me, you have to demo all your drills. You have to demo and then explain, and then, you know, and that has to be there for your students so they can see exactly what it is you're trying to accomplish, whatever the drill is.
You know, and I'll admit a failing of my own in demoing where ego is involved that I've been working really hard on the last few years, and I'm getting better at it. And that's the desire to do every drill at like my personal best in front of a class. And that's not necessary either. No. It's more important that they see what you're trying to do and how you go about it.
Right.
You know, if I do a 2 1/4 second bill drill, but they understand everything, that's better than doing a 1.8 and they don't really get the point of the drill.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. And you know, it's hard to let go of all ego, but ego is kind of also what got you there, right? You know, your own personal ego is like, yeah, I didn't like the way that looked. Let's do that over again. Let's get another rep in. Like, I need to perfect this, right? So yeah, having a little bit of ego, and then I think more importantly, when to let it go. Yeah.
I think I'm going to try to wax philosophic for a second. So let me know how I do. You know, I'm just a caveman, but I'm going to do my best.
Ditto.
I think pride is good because pride drives you. But I think ego, in the sense of being attached to appearing a certain way, I must appear to be this.
Yes.
Is the problem.
Yes. Yeah. There you go. 100%.
So tell me about this class you got going on. What's this open enrollment class about?
It's a variant off of my law enforcement class called Fight 2-4 Over the Gun. It's basically half weapon retention in and out of the holster, standing and grounded. And then day 2 is what I call concepts of disarming bad guys, or concepts of disarming your drunk Uncle Fester. And again, I've been teaching the law enforcement class for several years, and then, you know, just talking to other people about it. There, I've had a bunch of civilians asking me like, "Hey, like that's kind of interesting. I could see something like that, and I'd be interested in taking a class, yada yada." So I kind of restructured it and ran 3 different beta tests. I ran one up in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and 2 here in the Chicagoland area. I wasn't really satisfied. I mean, I'm satisfied with all 3, but the pride in me was like, if I'm going to ask people for their hard-earned money, then I want a program that's fairly polished. And so hence why I did 3 different beta tests, and I've had, I think, close to 30 different people take a look at it and give me honest feedback. And this last beta test that I just ran a little over a week ago, I'm ready to take it on the road. So it's a 2-day class. I already got Colorado booked, possibly New Mexico, and also next year. And then, I'm looking to do at least 4, if 6, that'd be great. So, yeah.
So I would love to get your thoughts on both the viability and the place for disarms in real fights, because I have some thoughts on this. We talked about it before we hit record.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So, a lot of people, when they think disarms, they think, gun to the head, gun behind you, gun in front of you, whatever, and solo robbery. And, I was still on the job in 2020, all through 2020. And the last few years before that, the idea of solo robbery was long gone. I don't remember exactly what year, maybe, I don't know, 2016, 17, 18, something like that, was probably the last time I saw a solo robbery. And the kids nowadays it's a group effort, right? It's a team tactic. Usually, stolen auto with blacked out windows, pulls up, driver with an AK gets out, 4 other dudes come out of the car, wearing hoodies and shiesties, and they're armed, and then they're picking their target. And usually one dude's got a gun to the head, and the other 3 dudes are rummaging through your pockets, and they're up and they're gone right before you know it. Hopefully, with any luck, you didn't get shot at. Maybe worst case scenario, you got to change your shorts, and you're out of some credit cards and some money, and a cell phone. But I'm not saying that you shouldn't learn what to do in a solo robbery to take that to disarm a gun, but the chances of you actually seeing or being involved in a solo robbery right in this present time, pretty slim. And there are those anomalies, but in general, these are group efforts. So, the disarms I'm talking about are usually one-on-one. So, let's say a cop's making a stop. He's, gonna pat a guy down for whatever reason, and he starts putting hands on guys, or the guy, and dude reaches into his waistband, coat pocket, hoodie pocket, whatever, and then next thing you know, they're fighting over a gun. Those are kind of more of the disarms I'm talking about. And so, like, to relate to like your drunk Uncle Fester, let's say you're at the family party. I mean, here Thanksgiving's coming up. Actually, that's where I met drunk Uncle Fester during a post Thanksgiving party. And right, from law enforcement, weekends are 2 days. and husbands, wives, families can deal with each other for 2 days, but then you go to 3, and then even worse, 4 days on a Thanksgiving weekend, and all hell breaks loose on Sunday. So, drunk Uncle Fester getting a little rowdy. He's always carrying a weapon. You're like, yeah, this is out of hand. He's, maybe brandished it, maybe he's flashed it. And you're like, yeah, we either got to get him out of here, or we got to like take that gun off of him. So, again, it's kind of a solo thing, one-on-one. So, yeah, I think in general, they're going to be ugly, and it's going to be, one of those, worst moments of your life. But I always look at it, is if I'm going to try to disarm somebody, I guess I don't want to get shot, and nor do I want to shoot my drunk Uncle Fester, but I sure as hell don't want to get shot by him. So I'll do what I can to prevent that.
So I want to get your thoughts now that we hit record on this, because we talked about it before we started. Because I did a couple of traditional martial arts that had a lot of disarms in them. Some Filipino stuff, some Japanese stuff. And I always thought that it was generally misinterpreted by the practitioners to be something they kind of do in a vacuum. And when somebody's swinging a meter-long razor at you, it's really hard to step off the line and take it away nice and smooth and gracefully, right?
Yeah.
And the same thing with a gun. I mean, obviously, the minimum effective distance is the muzzle, but anything past the muzzle inside a room, you're pretty well toast if they have the sights lined up, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So I always kind of thought that the way those would happen in the real world, and the way I've seen them happen in the real world on like security camera footage and the incidents I've seen myself, are kind of off a clinch or a bind, where you're already grappling over the weapon.
Yes.
And then you've learned how to strip it, how to take it away, right? But it's not this big circular spiraling Kotegaesh like in a Steven Seagal movie. It's not going to look like that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I for sure think it will occur in some type of clinch. I think the biggest mistake is to think that you can break out of the clinch, access a weapon, and then burn this guy down. And even worse, like that, this is your drunk uncle. Like you're not going to do a bill drill on him. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I guess you may. He might be a competition shooter, and you're going to be dueling. You're going to be dueling, right? But I think the worst is to create space, moving straight backwards, and then try and access a pistol. The being understanding the clinch, working from the clinch, and I guess I'll just talk about like the 5 concepts that I think of when that I guess what I'm teaching, right? And so the first one is control the weapon bearer. Right. Well, first thing is actually stay behind the gun, right? We know the business end of the gun. We don't want to be on the business end. We want to be back here. Secondarily, if we can't be back here, then we want to be here along the side of the gun. So stay away from the muzzle. Concept 2, control the weapon bearing limb, preferably with a 2-on-1. Your 2 arms versus his 1. That automatically helps you create an angle and some type of control. Concept 3 is ground the bad guy. I don't really want to have an even fight. I don't want to match my athleticism or lack thereof with the person who's armed. So I want to take them down. Preferably, I like to take people down backwards. Concept 3 is if we're going to attempt to disarm, control the weapon bearing limb. I don't want to do anything where I'm fully extended trying to fight over a gun. And then lastly, if we're going to, if we think basically all hell's broken loose, I'm losing this fight, I'm possibly losing the gun, or maybe I'm on the front end of the muzzle and I need to use lethal force, consider staying attached while you're controlling that weapon bearing limb, and then diminishing them enough so that you can create space. And then if you need to use more lethal force, then you can use the gun appropriately with sights. So Yeah, it's all clinch work and understanding the 2-on-1. And again, even if you forget the techniques that I teach, you just understand. Let's stay behind the gun. Let's control the weapon bearing limb. Let's ground the guy. Let's disarm him. By controlling the weapon bearing limb. You're much safer than if you didn't know those concepts. Again, some of those are common sense, but to me, that's as simple as I can get it, and keep it in a simple, essentially 1-day class.
Well, I really like the 2-on-1 thing is something I think people that haven't done enough non-cooperative pressure testing don't really understand how important that is, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at high level wrestling, there's always they're always working off the 2-on-1s, whether it be an arm drag or some type of Russian tie. And I think the other thing too with the 2-on-1, it typically will lead you to the outside, which will help you create an angle, which was also important. So, I mean, yeah, the 2-on-1 is, and any variation thereof is always going to be better than just a 1-on-1.
Well, and I like how you can kind of start to control their center of gravity too. If your base is good enough, if you're driving enough force into them, get their center off their base and start moving them around rather than letting them move you around while you're fighting for the gun.
Yeah, actually, I was just teaching a class earlier today, and we were talking about that. Like, our goal is to really be moving them, and if for whatever reason they're bigger than you, at least they're not moving you. Driving people on an angle, it's a lot easier than people think, and you could be the smaller person and still run people over if you have the right angle. And even if you don't run them over, let's just say they're so big they just hunker down, then at least they're not running you over.
Well, and let me know what you think about this, but like my thought would be is even if they're just concerned about maintaining their balance and they have to work physically to maintain that,
yeah,
that's mental bandwidth they can't use to get the gun into play.
Yes. And that was another topic that we were talking about. Like, if the what I like about the 2-on-1, especially the wrist lace that I use, I do have a free hand open. So I'm not saying that striking is going to be necessarily 100% appropriate, but sometimes a little blunt force encouragement does change people's minds. And also you can use that to just, set up different things, like different trips, rear trips, forward trips.
So if you don't mind, I'm going to steal blunt force encouragement. I like that. I'm going to take that and use that if you're okay with it.
That's a Cliff Byerly line.
Oh, I was just talking with Cliff, I think like a week ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Blunt force encouragement. I actually just made a post earlier this morning about a San Diego cop. I can't remember. I think it was a San Diego cop who punched the guy in a bar fight or whatever it was, and I said something like blunt force encouragement does work, and it's fairly frowned upon in law enforcement, but it is very effective.
So I got to find it. I got to dig it up somewhere. I have a certificate somebody gave me as a joke that certified me as an oxygen deprivation therapist.
I just had Jerry Wetzel come into town a couple months ago, month and a half ago, and I said, "Hey, Jerry, you need a gun or anything?" He's like, "No, I'm like, you need a knife?" He's like, "No, I'm good." I'm like, "All right." He's like, I got these," and I go, he's like, "Certified lethal weapons," and I go, "Oh, okay, cool." I go, "Those are only certified in California, right?" So I printed them out an international certificate.
Like an international driver's license?
Yes. Yeah. He framed it. I put it in a frame because he stayed with us. I put it in a frame in the bedroom, and he took the frame and the certificate home. Yeah. I'm like, hey, like if you don't need anything, it's okay. I get it, but I got it if you need it.
You know, and this is such a tangent, but I got to go here. So, I'm getting older. I'm not getting any younger, right? And I'm getting to the age where people won't look at me funny if I have a cane.
Yeah, sure.
And it has occurred to me that carrying a sword is entirely legal in the state of Texas.
That's cool.
So I'm seriously considering getting like a nice custom sword cane, like something really well made.
Yeah, I have my moments, especially when I travel. Man, I actually have to use a wheelchair sometimes, especially if I know O'Hare's Terminal 5. That thing's over a mile long. I can't walk that. Yeah, because my back's, obviously I got to carry luggage and, myself and yada yada. And I saw a guy using a cane. And I'm like, damn it. That's going to be me before I know it. Yeah, it's mildly sad. But
yeah, no, I get it. Before I had the hips replaced, there was about 6 months where I had to get a wheelchair to fly, and I was flying a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just always so, I mean, embarrassing is the wrong word, but there's a certain feeling you get when you feel like inside, like you should be able to move around like you normally do, and you're waiting for the wheelchair, and it's just kind of it's a little dismaying. It really is.
Yeah. So I just came back from stem cell therapy in Tijuana, and you go back over the border to San Diego, and there's a by the time I get dropped off to the time my flight was, I had plenty of time. So I just walked, and I'd walk a couple 100 feet or whatever, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna just pop a squat here for a few minutes, relax my feet and my back, and and of course, like I had to carry all my luggage and stuff. So, I'm gonna pop back up, and I'm like, oh, look, I'm like, let's map this out. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go down that far. I'm gonna get some food, and then pop a squat when I get some food, and I got still a couple hours to kill. I'm like, okay, then I'll mosey back to the terminal, and I'll just pop a squat there. But yeah, it sucks, but it's really O'Hare. If I have to go to even the United terminal, they go down and all the way across and back up, and it's minorly kind of like demoralizing. But I'm like, yeah, I know if I had to walk this, I'd need an hour to do it.
Yeah, and the good news is on my end that now that I had them replaced, I'm fine. Like that works well.
Mm-hmm.
But how was the stem cells? Because I've got some other joints besides the hips are great now because they're bionic, but I got some other stuff I could use them on, I think.
So unfortunately, it didn't help my my spinal cord injury. It did help my arthritis in my ankle, both hands, my neck, and I have no clue where else was in a lot of pain, but like, I mean, those were the biggest concerns, my ankle, my hands, and my neck. I still have arthritis, but it's way, way better. So I know, I was just talking about this today to a kid. One of the guys I went with a year ago, last year, October, I saw him this trip, and he said he couldn't make the 6-month trip because he was still in a lot of pain. And he had his knees done, or one knee done. And this is how bad it was. He was using that cane, or sorry, the walker, like it was a third leg, and he was like literally leaning on it. At the end of that week, he was carrying it in the air, and he was still hobbling. And I saw him, just a month ago, and he was using a cane. And sometimes he wouldn't even use the cane. He's like, I'm feeling pretty good. This knee's really, really janky. So they did that other knee, and my guess is, he'll have a long recovery. But he had a lot of success. It just took way longer than expected.
Yeah, mine is my shoulders. That's the ones I'm worried about. My knees hurt, but they hurt like any athlete my age. You know what I mean? Like, sure. I can live with the knees. They're fine, at least now. And I got like old injuries in the ankles and my back, but none of that is bad enough to stop me from doing anything I want to do. It may hurt after, but it's not going to
Sure.
really interfere with it, right?
Yeah.
But the VA wants to replace the shoulders, and that is not the same as getting the hips replaced. And I had this conversation with them about it, and I was like, well, will it increase my range of motion? And they were like, no. I said, are there any contraindications after surgery? And they said, yeah, you can't lift more than 20 pounds.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is it going to do for me? It's going to make it hurt less. Well, I'm just going to keep on hurting then, because that does not sound like a winning equation to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Most of the people I know who had their shoulders done, especially, training jujitsu, they just re-injure it, and it's, essentially back to square one. So I've torn this one probably three. This is probably the fourth time, probably the worst of the four. And I'm just doing rehab, trying to make it stronger. I have my moments where it's feeling good, and then I have my moments where it's really feeling bad. And as long as I don't tear anything else, I'm good to go. I work through it just like I did all the other times. I've torn this one too. This one actually was frozen for a little while. And I got caught in Kimura, and they unfroze it for me.
Nice.
It was a very painful unfreezing. But after I tapped, and I was like, oh damn, that hurt. And then you're traveling home, and you're like, wait a minute, normally this would hurt really bad. I'm like, wait a minute, this arm's not frozen anymore. I'm like, holy cow. I don't recommend that as a mode of unfreezing your arm, but
it worked.
It worked.
So I was rolling with this 18-year-old kid at the dojo last night, and at one point I had to tap because he kind of got me in a place where the shoulder was compromised, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's a good kid, and he's like, you okay? I'm like, no, this is great. This is like chiropractic combined with involuntary yoga. You're making me better.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I was rolling a couple weeks ago with one of my bigger guys. He's 6'4", 265, and I let him get to mount, and then all of a sudden, like, my spine just, I was like, oh yeah, just what I needed. All right, let's go. Yeah, and then I had to escape. Yeah, I'm like, dude, you're a big motherfucker. Yeah.
Dude, that's, and that's the one thing too, is I think people, and we've kind of gone off on like an old guy injury tangent, but we'll wrap it up after this before we get everybody bored out there. But, I have a bunch of old injuries, right? Like I've not been kind to my body over the years. But I think what happens is people, I don't want to say give up, because I don't think it's that they're giving up. I think it's that they're thinking they have to pull back on activity because it hurts.
Yeah.
And I think they're actually making things worse for themselves.
Yeah. So
within reason, of course.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, after my spinal cord injury, I had a spinal fusion. I was back teaching the third week out of surgery. And then I was on the mat kind of coaching at the fourth week. And then 3 months out, I started rolling again, super light. I'm still rolling relatively light, especially when I'm on the bottom, because I can't really get smashed. I can't get like folded in half or like twisted. But as far as like if I'm on top, I can pass guard pretty hard. And to me, movement is life. So I'll never stop. And to go back to that shoulder thing, actually somebody recently was like, so-and-so had shoulder surgery and they're doing great. They're back to golf. And I was like, I'm like, yeah, right. And I didn't want to laugh in her face, but I was like, like golf, like
that's like saying
thing.
You're back to bowling.
Right. You know, I'm like, yeah.
And I'm not knocking golf or bowling, but that's not a real sport.
That's not what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like if I was golfing, okay, maybe I would consider doing the surgery because it's golf, whatever. That's cool. But that's not what I'm into, right? I'm kind of into fighting, and you know. So no, I'm not looking to get cut open again.
Well, and then you look at guys like Gracie or the grandmaster of the Filipino stuff I do, Gaye. Like he's 86, 87,
Mm-hmm.
and he's still teaching international seminars.
Yeah.
And he's not moving like he did when he was 40,
Sure.
but he's moving a whole lot better than most people do at 40. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of actually, a couple of my guys were like, they're like, you haven't lost any of your timing, yada, yada. And I'm like, that's because I really didn't take much time off of the mats. I've trained through all my injuries, and because I just know you take a year off because whatever surgery, here, talking to the guy about a shoulder surgery, it's minimum 2 months in one sling, about a month to 6 weeks in another sling. So you're talking 3.5 months of completely immobile. Your shoulder's completely immobile. Now you got to go through rehab just to become mobile, right? And so you're talking probably close to 2 months of that. So you're at 5-6 months of not doing anything. And I'm like, no, I can't do that. As it is, I train jujitsu with my shoulder. I tuck my hand in my belt and I just roll one-handed. I'm like, it's not fun, but it's still being on the mat. It's still improving the one good hand that I do have. And, I don't lose out on any of the timing because I don't stop training.
I got really lucky with my physical therapy after the hip surgeries. The guy that was running the physical therapy ward at the VA hospital here was like a legit strength and conditioning guy. Like it had legit strength and conditioning jobs on a big scale. So they just treated me like an athlete. I think they were excited because it was more fun for them than their normal patient. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. The 80-year-old who needs help getting off the toilet.
So I had a blast with it. We kept going for as long as the VA would sign off on it. And then finally they're like, no, you can go ahead and stop now. Because I just had an S&C coach is all I had.
Right. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Actually, I'm talking to a strength coach tomorrow, Nick Delgadillo from Starting Strength. He's going to help me with some of this shoulder issues. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
Well, that's a good deal. So now that we've gone off on the old guy injury tangent, let's go back to your open enrollment class.
Yeah.
So what do people that might be thinking about coming to it, what do you need to tell them? What do they need to know about the class?
Another Cliffism, right? If you carry a gun and don't train combatives, you're just a holster for somebody else. I'm an advocate of training, and I think if you carry a firearm, you owe it to yourself to at the very least know how to protect it and protect yourself from becoming a holster and get gun snatched from you. And then as far as the whole disarms, I can see how people like, yeah, I would never do that, yada yada. Hey, that's cool, man. That's your prerogative. But that's part of learning something new. And then you would just see how a lot of the systems, like here, the combative summit was just a couple weeks ago. This was the third annual, and if you look at all of the instructors who are teaching and what they were teaching, most everything all revolve around the same concepts of using combat sports. So whether you interject a weapon or it's a straight up street fight or a knife, the knives and guns are different in the respect of like they're both dangerous, but on the flip side, one's more of a projectile and one's a contact style weapon. But if you look at the core root of everybody's instruction, it all revolves around the same thing. So yes, if you took Jerry Wetzel's red zone threat management, and then you took knife control concept stuff, you took Ben Aubin's stuff from Red Beard Combatives, you start to see how everything's really similar, and it's just professional tweak on my end or the other instructor's end, and the concepts are all the same. So if you've seen some disarms and you're like, no, I like these better, cool, go for it. I have my reasons for teaching the techniques or that I use versus other people. And guys came up to me and asked, hey, why you teach this? Or, what's the order of this? What's the priority of this? And here, like even today, we were working disarms, two-handed disarms, and the guy who was asking me, he was like, well, you showed this and then you showed this, two different methods. And I go, yeah. And he's like, which one do you prefer? And I go, neither. I want to take this guy down first. Like, that's my preference. And he's like, oh yeah. I go, he's like, but he's like, if you were stuck between this and this, like, what would you do? And I go, probably option one. Right. And he's like, okay, but why? And I go, truly in training. And so here is a matter of grip strength. Right. And so if a guy's holding the gun with the grip here and then the muzzle here, I call alternating grip. And in training, everybody's holding a gun with like 100%, 80 to 100% grip, right? Because they know what's going to happen.
Right.
But on the street and in non-training, like we know this from just pure law enforcement. How many guys truly hold a gun with any true grip strength, right? It's usually, barely enough just to keep the gun in the hand, from recoiling right out of your hand, right? And most people just generally don't have good, strong grip strength. So I said, while we're in training, I go, I wouldn't do this, but I would punch that other hand off. And he's like, so why wouldn't you? Why do you prefer that versus not in training? And I go, because in training, I go, he knows I'm going to try and get this gun. I go, so he's going to hold this at 80 to 100%. And I go, but on the street, I go, it's not that I'm banking that they're not going to hold it 100%, but in general,
experience has taught you. Yeah.
Yes. In general, you just know most people don't have good grip strength, right? So, and that's here, white belt jujitsu, right? Like you get a guy who, you start gripping him. He's like, holy shit. He's like, God damn, you're strong. I just know how to hold a gi and when to hold it and when to let it go. And that comes in time, right? And you can also get grabbed by somebody and go, okay, that's pretty strong. Or be like, no, this is a shit grip. Like he's not strong at all. I'll just break this, no problem. So I have my preference, but again, those are my preferences. I tell you, what do you feel comfortable doing? And even when guys are holding their gun, I go, or they're working a strip and they're like, this feels awkward. And I go, so make it unawkward, like make it so it feels good to you. And he's like, oh, I can do that. I'm like, absolutely. I go, yeah. Just because I say this is the way I do it, it's because this feels great for me.
So you said something a minute ago that I want to touch on, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
From a perspective of the student, right? Because I can see people thinking that there's no point in them learning the disarms because they're not going to do it. And in the real world, they're just going to give the guy the wallet or whatever, which is probably what they should do anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to flip that on its head for people and think about this. What's the best way to learn to keep your gun if somebody's trying to take it away from you? Work on taking guns away from somebody else, right?
Well, and that's part of the class is, like I always tell people like, okay, so we're working disarms. And if you're trying to keep it, you should be thinking, oh, what are the things that I could do to keep this versus give it away. Right. And part of it is like, I tell people, sometimes I'll do a drill where I want them completely in the weakest moment. So like elbows flared, fully extended, and the gun in hand, right? And I want you to start in this position because I want you to figure out how to make this a strong position. We all know this is weak, right? And so, I'll make a game of it, right? So that they can kind of figure it out on their own. And for the people who are like mildly retarded like me, need somebody to tell them, hey, dude, maybe if you bring your body close to your elbows and then you pull the gun in really close to your body, it's going to be a little harder for them to take, right? Oh yeah, duh. And you know, I get it. Sometimes I'm that way too. So I think as far as like, you know, here your gun gets away from you, and now you're trying to get it back, or at least not get shot by it. You know, that's to me where the like you're mentioning up and bringing it the backside of it, right? That if you get it taken, or here maybe you know, maybe you hope that you never get it taken, but at least you know better ways to you know, hold the gun and keep it close to your body and get their hands off of your gun.
What would you tell the prospective student who's worried they might not be fit enough or athletic enough for the class?
Yeah, you don't need a jiu-jitsu background, wrestling background, combat sport background, or even to be, you know, ultra fit or anything like that. You know, it's a physical class. It's nowhere near like a Craig Douglas ECQC. It's not that physical, but I will say at the very end of each day, we do some evos where we introduce sim pistols. And because I'm doing this primarily in gyms, I'm using blanks, which still can cause a burn, but there isn't a projectile flying out where now I got a dent in a wall and I got to clean the paint off, yada yada. So, I mean, I have marking cartridges if the gym is like, yeah, we don't care. You know, it's like the little skittle marks all over the ceiling and whatnot.
It's colored soap; it'll wash off.
Yeah. So it's just, you know, I don't want to spend any more time, you know, cleaning somebody's walls. So you know, I just use blanks. That's totally fine. But yeah, I'll bring out the sim guns and we'll fight over the guns. Just to kind of reinforce the course material. You know, and those evos are 30 seconds to a minute, you know. So, and if you can't do something for 30 seconds to a minute, I find that hard to believe. A lot of people can push themselves to do that.
And I think that's, and I'm not, it's gotten a lot better, right? It's gotten much better. But there is still a fair number of people who are civilians who carry a gun for self-defense that don't really work on the rest of the puzzle. You know what I mean? Don't really work on fitness and the ability to lay hands on somebody and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like you said, if you don't do that, you're basically just holding onto the gun until somebody else comes and gets it.
Yeah. I mean, that goes for law enforcement too. You know, it's you know, fitness, being strong and being capable physically are like a must. If you can't maintain that, and you know, as a kind of an aside, a lot of people, I don't remember where I was teaching local PD in the last couple of weeks. Anyways, you know, like to me, like I meet new kids and I'm like, hey, is a fitness goal is to basically wear the same size pants your whole career. And they were like, I'm like, or possibly smaller, but generally, you know, these new kids are coming in like string beans. And if you can maintain that whatever size you are is when you come in, you know, through your career, you're probably gonna be okay.
So when I got on Chicago, I went to the uniform store, and these guys would not listen to me. They're like, no, you need to get this bigger because you're going to get fatter. I'm like, no, I'm not. No, you need to allow it. I'm like, no, I don't. And finally I looked at the guy. I was like, you know, I'm not 21. I'm 30.
Yeah.
If I was going to get fatter, I'd be fatter.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's fitness should be your priority. And then fighting and shooting, you know, like I'm not saying one's more important than the other, but you should do fighting and shooting should be second on your list, you know, or if you're a cop, verbal skills are a high must. So probably right underneath physical fitness, probably verbal skills, because you're going to definitely use that the most. And I would argue you're probably going to put hands on people more than you're going to shoot them. So, you know, be able to learn how to manhandle people. And if you're big and strong, manhandling is going to be even easier. And then for sure for shooting, like, you know, performance shooting is all, you know, it's super important too.
One of my pet peeves is always the guys that think that fighting with a gun is somehow distinct and totally separate from fighting without a gun. Like somehow it's some magical thing that doesn't follow the same rules.
Yeah.
And you're still fighting. You're just using a tool.
Yeah. And you see that a lot more so with taser, because tasers pretty much, everybody and their mother's got a taser, and everybody and their mother thinks the taser is the magic talisman. And I will say the newest gen taser has a lot higher success rate from the few people I have on the inside who are using those and teaching people to use those. But fighting with a taser is fighting with a tool in your hand. And, to me, it is the same as fighting, but it's also niche, because if you're not used to fighting with a tool in hand, you're used to, let's say you're more of a Muay Thai guy or even straight up boxing guy. You're not used to punching people with said tool. But
that is true.
Yeah. But I mean,
I was thinking more the principles of fighting. Like they think somehow it's not going to
Yeah.
follow the fighting principles, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The fighting principles are the fighting principles. But as far as, implementing a tool in that with we'll just say gun in hand, it is the technical portion of the grappling is hard when you have a gun in one hand and you're basically got only one hand free. And actually, so I just reviewed a body cam and surveillance footage of an incident that was local here, that I was privy to, and the kid did a really good job. He was literally probably a second away from shooting the dude that he was wrestling with, and last second, right before he was about to pull the trigger, a civilian came in and helped him out. But he was fighting with a gun in hand, bad guy grabbed his arm while he was grabbing his own gun. So they were fighting for two guns kind of at the same time. And, there was a moment where I was like, how, people tell you, you don't need to look your gun in your holster, right? You should just be able to holster on your own. And there is a time, at least in law enforcement, you should just be able to stick that gun in the bucket. But on the flip side, I want to be able to look that gun in, especially when I'm fighting with somebody. But yeah, he had problems getting the gun in, and he was kind of waving it around. And I said, hey, I'm like, there's a time and place. And I go, what you would have been better off is just stapling this guy's leg or pinning his leg or pinning his arm with your arm or with your leg. And then you could have reholstered your gun and you wouldn't have that problem. And he's like, oh shit, I didn't even think of that. I'm like, it is what it is, man. I go, that's why I come in here to, just kind of critique this event so that you can learn from it. And,
and that's what I think the pressure testing gets you that you don't get without it. When all you do is follow a scripted technical scenario, whether it's force on force or defensive tactics. I hate that phrase, but you know what I mean. If you don't get kind of that free flow exchange, you lose out on learning those little nuances, right? Those little subtleties that you can do.
Yeah,
I think.
Yep. Yeah. This kid, he's taken everything I said to heart. He's started jiu-jitsu because of the incident. He realized and he has a wrestling background. And he did a really good job. He's just hard on himself. He literally wants to be, I'm not gonna say perfect, but better, right? And he sees some of the flaws and the mistakes that he made, and he doesn't want to make them again. So,
well, good on him. I mean, that I think sometimes is our main weakness as cops, is not learning from every incident.
Yeah,
because just because you won doesn't mean you did everything right.
Well, and that's, other agencies who have similar incidences locally. I hear later like, oh yeah, the admin doesn't like defensive tactics training because people get hurt, yada yada. And I'm like, well, you're only going to be able to get away with that till a bad incident, and then you get sued. Just saying. So, you choose not to offer training for your guys, those days are long gone.
I wish they understood too that, like, I actually did a thesis on this for my grad school program, that my theory was that the better trained an officer is, the less likely an event is to look bad to the public, because they have more options. They're more confident in the options.
Right.
They're not using the biggest tool they have because they're afraid they're not going to go home.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And by biggest tool, I mean techniques too. I don't mean just a gun. I mean, they're not using the heavy hammer to put a picture hanger on the wall,
Correct. Yeah. I think in this day and age, if you're in law enforcement, if you're not training on your own and self-educating, you're headed down a bad road. And in this climate right now, especially in Illinois, you're looking to, for sure, at the very least, lose your job, if not go to prison. Yep. So,
well, on that note, let's tell people how they can get your training.
You can hit me up. Best to hit me up on Instagram. It's Rectitude Training LLC. I have another page, basically kind of like my jiu-jitsu law enforcement page. It's my last name, Murakami, Murakami _JJ. If you go to that page, you'll see the Rectitude Training LLC page also. So yeah, that's probably the best way, or you can hit the website, rectitudetraining.com.
All right, everybody. Well, I definitely seek out the training. Without a doubt, it's going to be good. Kato here is a phenomenal resource. A lot of lessons learned that he needs to pass on. So seek it out, train more, get better.
Thanks, man.
And no, of course, man. And hope everybody enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. Do me a favor, because the algorithm tends to forget me because, guns and fighting and all that stuff. So click like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Tell me you liked it. If you didn't like it and you hate me, leave a comment anyway, because honestly, that still helps me. And I'll talk to everybody again next time.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Way is in Training. Please come back again as we explore how training makes us better at our craft and better in our everyday lives. See all of you soon.